in
Yes,
nutshell,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
okay, basically what are the life skills? These are the basically the abilities, okay, where individuals should possess and they enable any teacher to effectively manage the demands and challenges of everyday life and adapt positively to various situations. It doesn't mean that we don't have life skills. We do have, but how effectively we implement those life skills for better management. So this management could be at the level of personal level, or it could be on the social level, or in the cognitive competencies that support our what you call adaptive and constructive behavior. And these abilities make people help make informed decisions, because once you have got better life skills and efficacy, that makes you what you call more efficient in managing the issues, like solving problems, then critical thinking and creative thinking, what you call effective communication, and better healthy interpersonal relationships, and nonetheless stress and emotions to manage. Now, why all these things are important for a teacher? Now, please understand, nowadays the student folk which you are getting is not the usual student folk. They're already, or recall, flooded with the information, and many times the information is so much that they are well versed with the subject. And that's a one part on the positive side where we have to go advanced in what you call studying and all. The second part is of late what we are seeing is students are losing interest in academics. Sorry to say this, because over the what you call 2 3 decades of my experience, what I'm seeing is the interest and the eagerness and the concentration the students had earlier, which I'm not finding nowadays. Maybe because of the various other reasons, maybe because of the social media influence and all, and getting them back and getting them to make in the classroom in the sitting and making them fluent and effective dissemination of the knowledge from the teacher's side, all requires what you call effective implementation of life skills. I think that's why the talk is what you call designed in such a way that so you can what you call acquire and improve on your life skills, so that you can manage the both the classroom and your at home, your personal, professional, and interpersonal uh, context, where you can do a better job. Now, to start with what you call WHO, okay, WHO has given a list of 10 life skills which what you call a person is supposed to what you call uh, acquire, so that the management would be easier. So that could be in haphazard order. Okay, starting with the problem solving, creative thinking, critical thinking, decision making, empathy, self-awareness, interpersonal relationships, good communication or effective communication, management of stress or stress management, and nowadays we find it difficult to even manage the emotions. So all these things where WHO, World Health Organization, listed out few of the what you call important life skills. In today's talk, we are going to deal few of the very important what you call life skills with some practical activities. So let's start directly one by one. So for a teacher, what you call the most important part is the communication. So communication skill as one of the important life skill, later followed by problem solving and critical thinking. Maybe in the second session we might get into self awareness and emotional intelligence. We'll get into that later, but we start with the first what you call the communication skills and how they are important as a life skills. So when you talk about communication skills, okay, the basically in communication skills, what we talk about is the ability to use the language or our body's language and express our information. That's a basic thing. How good we are inside the classroom, that is more important. So whether we are effectively communicating to the students both by verbal and non-verbal communication, so that we'll look into. Then why it is important? Because these effective communication skills if you have, okay, it's a critical element in our teaching job and even in our personal lives. Many times we know so many things, but we fail to what you call disseminate it properly because of our lack of communication skills. Many teachers fail in communicating the things which they already know, but if they're doing in writing they can do better, but when it comes to the face to face communication or in the way of body language, they might miserably fail. So that's the idea where importance of communication skills. So in a classroom, what you call the idea of what you call goals of a communication is basically to start with the change behavior. The mostly you must have seen why the orientation what you call programs are given in each college, because one thing is basically to change the behavior of the students when they enter into a new what you call campus. Why? Because the entire thing for new for them, and that's why we need to have a what you call a desired change in their behavior. So communication can be useful to get action. So you tell something and it has to be done, because without a proper communication, the action will not be performed. Then to ensure understanding, because not all the subjects are so easy. Some subjects are complex. I don't say difficult, but they are a bit what you call tricky. So understanding is a better way, and how better we are making that understanding for the student is important thing. To pursue it, what I expect from the student is also important. And lastly, to get and give information. Okay, we give information as well as you get information inside a classroom as well as outside the classroom, and all this gets into the goal of communications. And basically now when we are going to talk about the communication process, there is a sender who sends messages, and there is a receiver, and in between there will be what you call a message. And sometimes the sender will become a receiver and receiver will become a communicator, because when he sends a message back, he will be a communicator and you will be the receiver. Of course, there are a lot of other things will interfere, like media and channels, where noise is one of the effect. And the good feedback would be improve your communication. Then suppose in a classroom, if you are doing a what you call communication effectively, now these are the 7 C's of effective communication. One thing is the completeness of information. So what happens when the if the information is not complete, the content part will not be disseminated properly. The students get confused. So that's one thing where once you begin something, at least in what you call when communication starts, you should complete in an effective way, completeness. So then a student will be knowing what to start, where it's in the midst of there, and how to conclude. So the completeness matters a lot. Then conciseness, because of the heavy workload or in the what you call in the syllabi, sometimes we find it difficult to complete all. So that completion can be done with brevity or conciseness. That is also more important, because when you talk about conciseness, how in short time you can communicate effectively, covering all the aspects, that is more important. Then comes consideration, whom we are considering, which group, whether it's a rural group or whether it's a advanced group, whether it's a what you call problem with the language issues. So you have to be very careful. If the people are coming from very remote area and they have a lack of English, then if we all the time we are going to talk in English, it's of no use. So whom to consider also more important. Then the clarity, how we teach or how we communicate.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
Excuse
ma'am.
me, sir.
Yeah,
So the slides are not moving, so we're not able to
not moving.
relate it with the point.
Okay,
Oh
now it's
yeah, now it's fine. Now it's fine.
earlier I had put on a slideshow. Sorry.
They weren't moving, sir, so it
Okay,
was
okay. Now
difficult to
it's
respond.
moving, right? Okay. Now you see it's moving.
Yes, sir. Now it's moving,
Okay,
sir.
okay. Sorry for that,
Thank you,
because I
sir. Thank you.
because I was on a full mode. Now I
Okay.
put in this one slide mode. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Now the clarity also said how, because sometimes we think that we have got a maximum clarity in our understand teaching or in our communication, but many times we literally fail, because we may have thought we are disseminated well, we have talked for 1 hour, but is that was what you call very effective in reaching the students. So the clarity is important. Then concreteness. So what we are talking is not beating around the bush, we are going to the point, we are going to talk about what you call point, and we are directly what you call talk to the point, not beating around the bush. That is what you call you talk about very specific issues and are covered under a syllabi. Then comes courtesy, okay, whom we are referring to. Then correctness. So sometimes what happens, in a hurry we may not have prepared well, we may give some wrong information, and this wrong information may be problematic for the student. So that is why even while communicating, the correctness also important, because I cannot do some activities online. If it's offline, I could have done some what you call activities on this basis. So these are the 7 C's of effective communication, where completeness is required, conciseness is required, whom to consider, clarity, concreteness, courtesy, and correctness. All these things are required. Then having all those 7 C's of effective communication, next comes what you call what are the experience of a communication. So basically hearing, smell, seeing, taste, and touch. Okay, that's not important for us, but most important for us are the types of communication. So though we think of only 2 types of or 3 types of communication, in fact there are 5 types of communications which usually encounter. The starting with the first one is a verbal communication, where right now I'm verbally communicating with you. So if you use a language and we do that communication, that will become verbal communication. Many times you use body language. That's also important because body language takes a major chunk in what you call communication process. We'll discuss more about this. Then the written communication, where we communicate through emails, WhatsApp chats, and all, and letters and all. So all that when it comes through a language part and writing part, where it goes through a written part, so then it becomes a written communication. Then we have a touch communication, not to be used much. Okay, this touch communication and all usually you can exercise more at home, not in the education institution. Then comes the part of chemical communication, where in chemical communication basically we talk about how the what you call chemically we influence others. Of course there are much research is needed for that, but definitely we have seen this kind of communication in the animal world, starting from ants to what you call honeybees to your own pet too. The what you call various what you call animals where they have a chemical communication. So using that also one can communicate. But today's our talk will be more based on verbal and non-verbal communication. So as I said, communication as a part, uh, more than 85% of our communication is non-verbal. Only 7 to 8% is verbal where we talk, and another remaining 5% is a pitch and tone which we attach to it. So this is where entire communication part. But please remember, the major chunk or the major part, more than 85% of our communication is non-verbal, and anthropologists have already identified more than 30,000 gestures and postures. I think somebody is on. Please, article mute yourself because echoes are coming. Okay, thank you. Please mute. Somebody is online, please, because unmute yourself, please. Okay, now, and the focus is more on what you call non-verbal communication. As I said, more than our communication, more than 85% of our communication is non-verbal. How this will be expressed? We do this, but we don't recognize or realize it. See, first of all, how the ways of talking passes stress on words. When very much important in the class. Sometimes the voice modulation in the class makes a big difference inside the classroom, because how do you talk? How when you go, your voice modulation is high. That catches attention of the students. Likewise, when the voice is very low, that also catches attention. And when you stress on particular words, that gives the idea that okay, this is important. Then how the posture would be? Your posture should not be confusing, as well as your appearance. And your head movements also inside the class makes a lot of difference. Hand movements also required, because the more of the hand movements also confuses, less also will convey nothing. A moderate levels of hand movements, because uh, hand movements carry a lot of importance in the communication. Then eye movements also important, where how you are going to move the eyes, because you cannot stare at one person or one place all the time. You have to keep on what you call having what you call move your what you call eyeballs, so that it is a what you call entire classroom you are going to watch. Then your facial expression is also important. So if you come with a grim face, or if you come with a what you call aggressive face, now the students will be little what you call uh, scared about things, because you may be already angry for one or other reasons, and this you cannot carry inside the room. Then shaking hands, body contact, and all. Okay, that's also part of our article non-verbal communication. Then one has to be very careful when you enter into the other space, so-called invading the other space. So I'll tell more about this later. Then how you make your class humorous. It's not that all the time humorous, because once in a while the students require some kind of refreshment, and this psychological refreshment and a small humor can refresh them and make them ready for the subsequent contents which you are dealing for. Now, teaching as a process of communication. Please understand this is very important because nowadays we are in the what you call digital world. So, teaching as a process of communication, how we manage, who is doing it. A teacher can do that. A textbook can, a writer, a TV, a presenter, radio broadcast, anything can be what you call a source. Then what we are telling, the content of the lessons and textbooks. That's what we are going to tell. And how we are going to talk about, how we are going to communicate. Basically, it is what you call face to face speech. And during Corona, we went for online mode, and it could be through LCD mode presentations like pictures or films or slides, or sometimes it could be radio communication, or sometimes it could be through TV. So whenever sometimes virtual what you call education comes, where usually the TV and all matters a lot, and nowadays a lot of what you call video blogs have come, so one can study. And most of the universities in abroad, they are moving into virtual education, where they are communicating through the ready-made talks. And for whom we are disseminating, basically the learner. In this case, for us, learners are none other than the students. And what is required, the reaction and the feedback, how we are going to do well. So teaching as a process of communication makes a lot of difference than a general communication. So what exactly we are doing in education, how we are communicating. First is the teaching as a process. You need to have content and you should be better communication. And how the content would go based on the methods and the instructions. What are the what you call method of teaching you follow, and what kind of instruction you are going to follow. That includes the content part of it. Whereas when communication comes, please understand, it's a media and communication or instruction inside the class. So sometimes it could be no projection, and there could be a projected media. When there's no projection, we call it as a software approach, and when there's a projected media, we are having a hardware approach. I remember the days when we are having what we call chalk and talk culture, where all the time, and still some of the colleges would follow the chalk and talk, but most of them have now moved to the digital culture, where we are going to use what you call the LCDs, and communication is much more what you call using ICT, information communication technology, where we are trying to give more information than a mere chalk and talk procedure. But I'm not denying the importance of chalk and talk procedure. It is still effective, because what is going to happen is, in the more you write on the board, whether with the blackboard or whiteboard, that has got more impact than just merely showing what you call merely showing the slides. So sometimes what happens, the slides are just shown and moved, and that may not have much impact. So again, I'm going to talk something more about classroom situation. Why we are, when your communication is better inside the classroom. So the more you use what you call audiovisual aids, so the more the amount of audiovisual aids you use, this has got a positive impact. And within audiovisual aids, you can have three things. One is audio memory, another one is visual memory, and the third one is motion memory. So it's already proved that audio memory is very weak, where suppose you speak or play some audio, that memory is very weak for the students. Visual memory, if you show a picture, that is better than the audio memory. But the motion picture, or the suppose you show a video of a small clip, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, that has got a maximum impact for the memory of our students. So this is where you can keep note of it, where you can think of audio memory, visual memory, and motion memory. So remember, in the classroom, how it happens. You are the you being a teacher, you are the sender. Okay, you do a communication content, you formulate, encode, and transmit. You don't tell whatever is there exactly in the textbook or the content to be what you call disseminated. So what you do is, you formulate the things, you encode yourself, so how to tell it, and you transmit through one of the media, and that message will be reached via sign, symbols, or any this one. And again, you see the receiver part, where now receiver listens to you, and then he transmits, decodes, and interprets. Why sometimes what you call the student finds it difficult to understand, because whatever you have encoded and whatever the student has decoded, there is a mismatch. And why this comes? Because of the what you call the complexity of the language you have used, the understanding level of the student. When there is a what you call mismatch between these two, the sender's encoding will not match the receiver's decoding, then there will be a problem. So now students find it difficult to understand what it is. So this is where the message and media, again, it's a two-way process. You encode and students decode, and all this will be in a cyclic way. So this is where entire classroom works. But something more on now, as I was telling about territories and zones in the communication. So we maintain 4 levels of what you call territories and zones, in a way how much distance we keep with others. It could be in the classroom, it could be outside the classroom, or it could be in the public places, or it could be at your home. So the zones, we call it as what you call 4 zones. They are identified, starting with the intimate zone, personal zone, social zone, and the public zone. So in the intimate zone, it's basically very near to our body. Because nobody likes what you call invading others. If suppose somebody comes to me very near to me, I may not like it, because I carry an imaginary air bubble around me, and I want nobody to enter it because it's my space or my territory. Suppose somebody invades my territory or my space, I really feel disgusted. I feel what you call uncomfortable. But this will not happen in the intimate zone, and that's why intimate zone is basically touching and 6 to 8, and the distance could be around 6 to 18 inches, where this can happen with your family or with your very very close friends. There only the intimate zone works. There what you call there is a permission to enter into your personal zone. Then comes the personal zone, where now your close friends would enter into the scene, where they can maintain a distance of 1.5 to 2.5 feet on a shorter level, and on a longer level, it could be 2.5 to 4.5 feet. So this can happen when your friends are coming to your home, or we are attending this one. So then it could be a personal zone, where the so-called the friend circle is very what you call very close knit group. Then comes the social group. Okay, where now you are what you call attending a marriage or attending a function of your own known people, where the closeness and farness can reach from 4 to 7 feet to 7 to 12 feet respectively. So idea here is, here the distance increases. Whereas in the public zone, where a religious or a political leader speaking, and you are keeping a very far off distance, it could be at the close level, it could be 12 to 25 feet, or on the far level, it could be 25 feet or greater. But remember, all this, whether it's intimate zone or personal zone or social zone or public zone, please understand, as the distance increases, intimacy decreases. Because you can really make out, and this can you can see even in your with your colleagues and all, how much distance they keep with you. The more the distance meant, the intimacy would be lesser under normal conditions, not under during so what do you call specific other conditions where they are meant to be far. No, I'm not telling that one. Under regular situations, normal situations, you can understand the body language in a much better way. Then uh, in the classroom communication, we usually say openness and honesty, palm gestures. See, a student, if we what you call, suppose not all the students are what you call, some students are naughty or mischievous, and suppose you are on inquiry mode. Now, if the student comes with the open palm and he says, "I don't know, sir. I don't know, madam." Now, the student comes with the open palm. Now, you can say, or you can believe that boy or girl where they are honest enough. Now, usually we say open palms can what you call indicate honesty. Whereas the same students, he hides his palms in the pocket. Now, you might what you call have a doubt that whether the student is telling right or wrong. So this principle is even used by judges in their law courts, where they look into the body language of the person. But the problem is, one can easily what you call uh, morph, or one can easily cheat body language. So you need some training to identify and master the body language, which is a part of communication. So that's about the openness and honesty in palm gestures. And within palm gestures, you have the following. And one thing is there, I want to tell you one important thing as a teacher. Sometimes we use pointers. We use vertical fingers as a pointer. For example, if we see the down one, the fourth, this one, where I'm highlighting or rotating the cursor, this particular is a symbol. This one, uh, language or the gesture is nothing but pointer. Please, teachers, try to avoid this pointer gesture, because pointer is an irritating gesture, because it is directly points towards a person. And many times fights have happened not because of the words, it's because of the pointers. So how you point out? So rather than pointing out, can you have the submissive gesture? Because you can order a student, go and get it, I want this book, go and get it. Yes, student does, but he'll not be happy. But the same thing, can it go in a request? Can you get this, please? Now, the student will be happily doing because my teacher is telling. So, in both the cases, work will be done, but how it will be done, that is more important. Now, there are several such gestures. For example, this is thumbs up, this is thumbs down, and all. Now, all this nowadays, there are a lot of what you call in WhatsApp and all. You see, nowadays we don't type much, we just give the gestures, all right, or not good, or wish you bad luck. All these things can be done through a palm gestures. Now, if you see, whenever the person approaches, and if you see the right side picture, whenever you see the right side part and the first what you call, whenever you see that kind of gesture, it's basically submissive and it's a request gesture. Whereas other part, if you see a dominant palm position, which usually done by people are on the what you call in the higher what you call positions, and it's usually done during a oath taking process, because a oath taking process, the hands are firm, fingers are firm, and it's a what you call the position which you see exactly like the last picture in the slide. Now this is where palm gestures, and you can understand easily how what the person wants to communicate to you. Then comes shaking hands. How many of you know there are varieties of shaking hands? For example, you see now, see the first one, where if you see the right side, where the person's hand is, the palm is on the down, the other person is this one. Now the other person is taking the control. Now what is it taking the control? The right person is taking the control and the left person is giving the control. Now this is where what you call, you see, this kind of handshake is called as dominant handshake, where the other person purposely comes and his hand will be on a dominant position. That could be a dominant handshake. Then sometimes there could be giving the control, where, as I said, the reverse of this, where this hand is up and the other palm is down, then it is called as submissive. Then the perfect handshake is this: no tilting either toes left or right or completely upside down, completely parallel to each other. And if you see, the fingers are very much knit inside this one. So that is called as a perfect handshake. And the glove handshake, if you see, your hand is in hand of another person, where the other person's hands or palms are like gloves. Now there is some tricky things here. How, what you call, what is the interpretation of the glove handshake? Now, if your close friend is doing it, that shows intimacy. But if a stranger is doing that, don't believe the person. First time, if a person comes and does, first time, again I'm underlining, first time if a person comes and does this kind of gesture, that gives the idea that the person is expecting something from you. But if a close friend does it, it shows the intimacy. So don't get confused. So that's where a communication, even a shake hand has got a lot of communication which you can think of. Sometimes inside the class we look, and please understand, it has got lot of meaning. One thing is, how long do you look? A serious staring is not a good idea, because a staring gives the idea of dehumanizing or challenges. That's what we do inside the class once in a while. So staring is not, because it gives a signal to the student, and it dehumanizes because you are not doing right, or indirectly we are challenging. there could be a glances, that is called as socially acceptable timing. So that's what one teacher has to supposed to do, where he has to glance, not the staring inside the class. The glancing will make all the students alert, because you are not glancing at one student, you are glancing like periodically, you are glancing entire class. Now that is called as good, and it's a socially acceptable timing. Then appraisal, once in a while there could be what you call uh, appraisal there, where sometimes change your what you call facial expression. Something interesting is coming from the student side, and that has lots and lots to do, because if something is interesting, something is innovative is coming from the students, now you appraise it, and that shows lot of interest from your side. So the looking can be appraisal. But I have got specific thing nowadays. Do you look when you talk? Please understand, these are the questions are very tricky. And do you look when you listen? Because of the invasion of mobile and all, we are so much into mobile. So many times other person keeps on talking, and we are serious into looking into mobile. What is happening now? This specific process is called as pubbing. Pubbing. Now this pubbing process is not a good one, because the other person might think that you are lost interest in what you call your interest in the talk. So that's the idea. So in this case, always we have to listen, as well as while talking we have to look, and she should have a glancing, not either, not definitely staring. So when you talk to others, and please understand, if you talk to eye to other person, or the other person talks to eye contact, that means there is a lot of honest and truth involved. If the person avoids your glance, person avoids your staring, that means there is something wrong. So that's why, do you look when you talk, as well as do you look when you listen? Both are important. Nowadays, students are very what you call, very what you call watchable, though their interest is more, but they observe a lot. So now what happens? How do you walk also matters. So it is said that walking into meetings with the long strides and a straight posture reflects a person with the long term goals, and one who is willing to take the risk. This you can do by yourself, or you can assess others, and it conveys a big self confidence. It's a long straight posture, that's more important how you do it. And inside the classroom, a open course of teaching, it conveys the trust. And it's not that all the time you have to fold yourself or fold your hands and talk. That gives a some kind of reserved attitude. So to keep the center of your body open all the times by keeping your hands and arms uncrossed. So that attracts the students' attention, where your hands are moving, how your facial structure would be, how what you are telling, rather than just folding the hands. So even the torso matters. And for beginners, I would expect, yes, what you call, you require a podium to those teachers in the beginning stage. But after that, I think you have to leave the podium, and you have to talk, so that you can move around in a subtle way. And sometimes you see this kind of posture, if you see the decision making. Now you see how the article hands are folded, and how article fingers are almost about to touch from this in the picture. So because you can identify the decision maker in a class or in a meeting by whose reaction the audience is observing. See, what happens is, if there is a head or the principal is there, you are always looking to the most important person like principal, and you think what kind of reinforcement would be coming out. So this also you can make out subtly in your institution. And arm gestures, okay, now this is quite interesting, I have to tell you. Usually the superiority or confidence gesture, if you see here, that's where arms are clearly folded back, and one arm is knit with the other this one connected with the other one. See the second one, both are connected, but the left hand is gone slightly up, and in the upper arm grip, the what you call, the it has gone totally up. Now remember, this is called as superiority gesture, or this, the first gesture is called as the royal gesture. Now, why this is called as royal gesture? Because you have got a power. And remember, when you do this, when you are given an invigilation, where you typically do this kind of gesture, because you have got the entire control over the class and you have got the power over the class, automatically you do this. But remember these two, the second one, hand gripping and upper arm grip, except from the weather part, I'm telling. So okay, keep the what do you call weather part separate. But I'm talking about these two, where they usually, it is said that they show negative attitude or negative emotions in the person's mind. So you can assess that also by just looking into what you call those things. And the arm gestures. Now you see the first picture where the fists are closed, the fingers are closed in the form of this one, and this shows a hostile attitude. And here, if you see the second one, a form because the person doesn't want to budge or change his attitude. He has taken a stand, he has taken a decision, he doesn't want to change. This you can see very much in the small children. If they don't want, they'll be like this. And see here the third picture where the superior attitude is shown, where the attitude, the both thumbs up, and he says, "I'm the boss." So this shows that I'm on the what you call, I'm on the higher side. So all these things, okay, will give some ideas about evaluate others. So next comes evaluation. Very much there inside the classroom. All these gestures you can see inside the class from the student side. Now see here, the first picture. If you see how the vertical evaluation goes slightly on the mouth. See on the cheek. See now lifting the cheek and slightly down the lip. And you see the last picture. One finger is on the cheek and other finger is on the this one on the lip, and the other three fingers are touching the down the cheek. Now all these are called as evaluation clusters. Now these evaluation clusters have got a typical meaning. Now see this, the first one and the what you call the first and the fourth and the colored one, the last uncolored one, they are called as typical evaluation gestures, whether the person is telling truth or not. Where this is where a typical evaluation, where they are trying to check whether the person is telling really content or not. Whereas see here, this cluster shows that its evaluation as a decision making. But see here, the this picture, the center picture, where the thumb has gone down the cheek, and in a way it's a boring cluster. Sometimes your students will put entire palm on their cheek. Now that gives the idea that the student is no more interested in your class. Indirectly they are communicating the content is getting boring. So this idea, if it's the end part of it, it's not a problem. But if in the beginning or middle part of it, I think it's a signal or a message for you that you have to change the content or the style of teaching. Sometimes there is a drumming behavior. I don't know how many of you seen. That means they are ready to go. Sometimes the leg shakes. All these are communicative things that they are not comfortable with your lecture. So you can make out that with the things. So be careful about that, and accordingly you can change the teaching because they are giving the communication to you. Then comes the lies. Okay, so sometimes students lie, and there are several things, and few of the very prominent one is the nose touch. Not because what you call there's a itching, they slightly want to touch the nose. Sometimes they avoid your eyes. They have a what you call fake cough. Sometimes the eye rub, though there's nothing, but you have to be very careful to decide this, because sometimes if there is a real itching is there in the nose and the person touches the nose, then you cannot decide that the person is lying. Likewise eye rub, if there's some what you call some dust is there and the person goes for lying, sorry, person goes for rubbing, you cannot decide that the person is going for or person is lying. So because there are additional what you call gestures would give the idea that whether the person is lying or not, just not on one gesture. Our students are nowadays flooded with all of these what you call issues, where we say they're finding difficult to manage the emotions nowadays, because one thing is the nuclear families, and too much of freedom is given to children, and another thing is what you call the what you call use of digital technology. And because of that, you can make out your students whether they're under depression or anxiety or stress. This is being communicated to you through their body language, and you need to what you call talk to them. You need to counsel them, because teacher is not a just teacher to teach. A teacher mentor is a guide and a counselor. So you need to look after the body language of the students, whether if they're suffering from some mild mental issues or psychological issues, where a good talk can solve a lot of issues, because nowadays students come with n number of problems. So that's where your help is needed, teacher as a counselor. So that could be another talk, but just I'm keeping in your what you call idea that identify what you call if there is a problem student is there, and can you do something good for them by identifying their communication, what they're communicating, they're not comfortable, better you do it. So how to what you call achieving effectiveness in classroom communication as a teacher. So this is what I want to tell you. One is the two-way communication, because there should be space for the students even to react. I don't believe in what you call teaching continuously for 1 hour and going back. So in between, you have to elicit what you call responses from them. You need to have a feedback. That is also more important. It should be a two-way communication. It should be more of what you call discussion-based lecture rather than only lecture method. And you have to have a two-way communication where by having a two-way communication, you get to know that whether students are understanding or not. Then effective feedback for efficient teaching. Now, in the initial stages, I would expect all the teachers to get what you call a feedback, compulsory feedback from the students. So one thing is basically is the speed of presentation. Now, because they are not tuned to your speed of presentation. So one thing is how good they are in adjusting to or listening to you, whether they can adjust well for your speed of presentation. Then they might say clarity in your what you call in your talk, the specificity in your talk, the understanding part of it, the language part of it. You can take feedback for each and everything in the beginning stages, and once you take that feedback, now based on their feedback you can rework so that your classroom condition would be better. Then, as I said, communication and principle of clarity. If you don't have a clarity in your class, in your lecture, please understand the students are sitting in the class maybe just for attendance sake, because if they're coming for attendance sake, they are not interested in your class, because your class would be boring for them. So make the content what you call very clear, even the what you call, because in a classroom we find varieties of students, and you should think of a student who is not understanding at all. From that view you have to start very what you call a slow learner point of view, because there are fast learners are there, no, not a problem, they can learn anyway, but your focus to clarify even the slow learners or so-called students scoring low, for them it's important. Then development of motivation, because nowadays are directionless. Because if I ask my students what you want to do in the future, they say still I have not thought of it, still I'm thinking over it. In all other places it happens much this one what you call earlier, whereby their 10 or 10 plus 2 standards, they'll be deciding what they want to become next. So when we do that, what you call the motivation part, as a teacher, that can bring a lot of effectiveness in the class, because our teacher is motivating us also, then they listen more to you. So direct them, identify their potentials. Then use of technology and instructional materials. Now, as such, the UGC has a strict rule that you have to use ICT inside the classroom. But unfortunately, we have restricted ICT means only LCD. There are a lot of other things which are virtually available, where we can use virtual what you call issues inside the class, so that we can make our class more effective. The communication is more clear for the student. It can be done. So our instruction material can be what you call completely changed. Then the teaching strategies and skills. There are some teachers who come and talk 1 hour or whatever the time is given for that particular slot, but I want you to break what you call into 2 or 3 slots, so that you can give a break in between. That's a strategy. Talk a topic, give a break, and that break is called as distraction period, where it is required for consolidation of memory traces, which is very good in communication process for the students. So whatever you have been discussing in the class, that has to be consolidated by what you call teaching strategies. And nowadays, what you call, there is a continuous evaluation, where what you call the NEP or SEP talk about it, where the skills can be what you call extend to students also. You can ask the students to present, and you can give some marks for that, bonus marks. So you can develop skills among them also, then they will be happy also. And indirectly, you are developing communication skills not only in you, you are developing communication skills in your students also. By doing all this, you can achieve a big effectiveness in your classroom communication. Now, it's not so easy. Sometimes we end up with some kind of problems or barriers in the effective communication. So why this is required? Because sometimes we are not able to reach the target group. Now we call it as a barriers. And why it happens? See, the first point, we are not able to connect with the audience. Why? Because the way I communicate and the way they understand is not matching. So I'm not able to what you call connecting the audience. So the best way is to what you call get into the wavelength of the students and adjust to your wavelength. I may know what you call, or the teacher may know very high-fi English words, but what is the use if the student doesn't understand? So get into their level, and get into their level of understanding, and we what you call, you lower the language what you call complexity to their level. Now you see the change. Now you are connecting with the audience. That barrier is gone. Using the simple words, that is also more important. Not using the jargons, because by the more the jargons you use, then there is a problem. Then your body language inside the class, your smile, eye contact, gestures, tone, all matters inside the class. They are not just listening to you, they observe. They observe you a lot, and they observe your smile. How do you greet them matters a lot. The moment you enter and you greet them with a smile, it motivates the entire class. Rather than if you are not greeting and you come with the anger face or aggressive mode, not a good idea. Eye to eye contact, break eye contact is very important inside the class. What kind of gestures and postures you use inside the class makes a big difference. Then the tone, as we already discussed, it also constitutes around 5 to 7% of our communication. Then cultural sensitivity. This is where because it happens usually, cultural sensitivity, the language usage. So I think most of you are from Karnataka and all. If a North Karnataka person comes and speaks in South Karnataka, there's a lot of cultural sensitivity is there, where the language part is there. So one has to take care of this. So one has to be very careful while talking to a person. Okay, they are in the class. The cultural sensitivity is also important. For example,
Mister,
for example, uh, if you go to Dakshina Kannada side and all, they typically speak book Kannada. Whereas you come to Mysore and Mandya, there is a what you call Aadu Kannada. They like the regular Kannada. So there are varieties. And if you go to North Karnataka, the use of Kannada is very different. So that's why the cultural sensitivity is also important for a better communication. Checking for understanding. So how many of you really ask your students how they understood the content? That's why I call it. I asked you to take a feedback. How much understanding they have done. Then seeking participation, whether they are involved or not, and you are also part of the thing, that makes more effective things. Then questioning, effective questions, not targeting a student for question. No, the question is meant to understand two things. One is whatever you have said, whether they understood, and another thing is to check the knowledge of the student. You can question, but not targeting a particular student. No, that's not a good idea. So you have to use effective questions for that skill. Then the lastly, summarizing what has been said. At the end of the class, you have to really, because in the beginning of a class, you say what to be dealt in the class. Then at the end of the day or end of the class, you are going to summarize what has been discussed in the class and what next for tomorrow or the next class. So if you manage this, I think you can what you call effectively overcome the barriers. So that's the idea. That's where we are going to stop with the first what you call life skill called as communication skill as a teacher. So the next skill is the critical thinking. we are going to discuss 4 or 5 skills. So the second skill is going to be critical thinking, along with maybe we'll be connecting to the problem solving also. We'll see how much time we'll get. Based on that, we'll continue. Now, critical thinking is must. And what is critical? All of us we think, but do we have a critical thinking? Meaning what? What it involves? So a person who is referred as a critical thinker, he'll not just go by what other person says. Just he'll not just agree what other person says so easily on a simple level. So that means what? He thinks more. Why? Because of the following issues. That is why a critical thinking involves comparing and contrasting as one of the major issue, and having an attempt to give more detailed explanation why the things are happening like this. And whenever some ideas or the book things are coming, can you evaluate those ideas and form opinions? That's what you call typically considered as critical thinking. Understanding perspective of others. We only think of our own perspective and we want to impose over that. But are we understanding the perspective of others? That involves critical thinking. And if you're really good in critical thinking, one can predict what will happen in the future. Lastly, a person think of creative solutions as well as win-win solutions, because a creative solution is something new and a win-win solution is both of them will not be harmed. So both of them are on a positive side of this one. Now, when you talk about that, why critical thinking is required? For following reasons, you try to evaluate, look into an issue, information, situation, or requirement, or recommendations made by others. Why I'm telling this? Because especially in this digital age, a lot of cyber crimes are happening. I think most of you are aware of digital arrest. Some calls would come. Some people say, okay, you have some parcel which is doubtful, and it is going to raid. You have income tax is going to raid. You have a lot of this one money which is not accounted for, unnecessary. And unless you have got a critical thinking, if you just think okay there is something wrong and you are a victim of it, and you see how people are losing money just by going by the that so-called scamsters or scammers who what do you call who invade into your digital technology, try to get some information and they threaten you, and the money has gone into crores. So that's why critical thinking is very important. That's why one should not blindly accept or get carried away by the other statement or pressures. The moment you just get carried away by these things, then you are a victim and you are a big loser. So that's why critical thinking is required, and you have to practice it. So what are the major components of critical thinking? So one is our perception, another is assumption, emotions, language, argument, fallacy, logic, and problem solving. So all these are major components of critical thinking in as a life skill. So what we perceive, we start one by one quickly. So what we perceive, our perception is nothing but how we receive and translate our experiences. A significant filtering system, and we do selectively this one. Our perception defines how we think. Now our perception is based on what? Our all our sense organs and their functions. Our sense organs, smell, taste, hear, feel, or see. All these inputs are given by our sense organs, and based on that, we perceive. Now there is a big question: can we trust our perception? I'm going to show two pictures. Okay, just look into this. Any opinion over this? You can turn it on this one. Any opinion on these pictures?
So the pictures are actually seen as if there is a swimming pool, but it's an art on the road.
Yes.
And the other picture is also, it shows like a spider web or a deep hole, but again it's an art made on the road.
Yeah, now you understand. if I remove the background of the road and all, what you're
Yeah,
going to
someone
think?
would actually confuse it too and would
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that I
This
would
is
fall into.
actually I wanted to show some pictures, but I am purposely I'm avoiding. These are in a simple way, what you call, where our perception can go wrong, where just because of how we perceive and it is not true. So that's why critical thinking involves don't be judgmental in the first space itself. In the first part itself, you should not be judgmental itself, because it could be towards your own students, it could be your own, your what you call home people. No, don't be judgmental. Don't do it in a spur of moment, because it might lead to disaster. So our perceptions may not be true. So just for that, I wanted to show this. And our assumptions, what we think, also important, but these assumptions are implied, but not always bad. Okay, now I'll give one what you call one chance for you. These what you call assumptions make us comfortable with the present beliefs, and then our emotions matter a lot. Okay, because that's why we say don't give your emotions while what you call don't act on your emotions while you are in a hyper mode, because whenever you're emotional, our critical thinking goes very bad. So to say in a very simple mode, whenever you are very angry or whenever very happy, don't declare anything, because in an angry mood, whatever you have said can be very disastrous. Likewise, when you're in a happy mood, there could be a problem if you declare something. So it's what you call. That's why uh, whenever emotionally high on the negative or on the positive side, it might affect your critical thinking. Okay, but remember, that's why whenever you're under critical thinking, you're just it helps clarify feelings and deal with them more efficiently. Another thing is the language part. Okay, language and critical thinking, where thinking cannot be separated from the language, because three things are important: to inform, to persuade, and explain. And remember, it can fool us. For a simple on a simple level, I'm asking the audience. Uh, Nowadays, especially the students, especially girls, uh, call other girls in a very specific wording. So, do you know about it? Over the phone or over calling or referring to them? Anyone from audience? Especially girls. Or sometimes we may use this. Anyone?
Bro,
Can you repeat, madam?
bro,
Yes, bro.
bro.
Okay. Over the phone, sometimes, Elydia, bro. Where are you, bro? Come, bro. Go, bro. Don't you think language can fool us? That's the latest thing I want to tell you. And if the
Sis.
boy says, no, machi, macha,
Sis.
sis. Now, where is the critical thinking? Language can affect a lot. Of course, they can do it for a fun, but it can happen like that. So, language and critical thinking has got a lot of issues. Then, arguments. Remember, three basic elements are there: the issue, one or more reasons, and the conclusions. Okay, can be valid or invalid based on the structure. And goal of critical thinking is sound arguments. Please understand, all of them are things are this one. It should be sound arguments, and it should be valid in critical thinking, and most are true premises. And if you think of inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning, you will get more details of it. Then comes another thing in which is lengthier, A or B. If you see the two lines,
Okay.
any other answers? Okay, we are running short of the time. Okay, I'll give the answer. For your kind information, it is neither A or B. Both lines are equal. Can you believe it?
B.
Madam,
Yes, sir,
both
both
lines.
lines are equal because they are reversible at the same time.
I'll show the vertical picture. See now. Answer is both are same. Answer is both are
Both are same.
same. But what it looks like, usually the answer is A is lengthier or longer than B, which is not true. So this is how we get confused, and all this what you call our critical thinking can be affected. Then comes the logic. Two things: deductive and inductive. I'm not going to talk much about this, but where deductive or where we call it as a funnel approach, where based on the facts, certainty, and validity, and sound arguments and conclusions, we come into this. Whereas inductive, from reverse funnel approach, from the diverse fact to the specific fact we derive based on the probability, generalization, and hypothesis. But this is where your the idea is. But I want to use a simple logic for you. Mary's mom has 4 children. First is called April, second is May, third is June. And what's the name of the fourth child? Quick answer, please. April,
July.
May, June.
July.
July.
Mary, sir.
Now you understand why July is the wrong answer. Because the name itself says Mary's mom. April, May, June is just a sequence. And we just went by the sequence. If it is July, it is wrong. It's Mary itself. Okay, go for little logic more. What is 3/7 of chicken, 2/3 of cat, and 2/4 of goat? Anybody? Don't say biryani.
Black color.
What is 3/7 of chicken? Black color is a wrong, madam. It's a logic. Please understand. There is something more trick involved. 2/3 of cat and 2/4 of goat.
Shaded.
Huh?
Shaded.
No.
Water.
No, sir.
Legs.
No. There is something very logic involved in this. 3/7 of chicken, 2/3 of cat, and 2/4 of goat.
Color.
No, there's only gray shades.
Height.
Price.
No, no, no. No. Shall you go for the answer?
Meat, chicken, meat, food items.
Huh?
Price. Sorry. Sir, tell me the answer.
Year.
No, we'll go to the answer. The question is very, very simple. What is 3/7 of chicken, 2/3 of cat, and 2/4 of goat? It's not definitely meat. The answer is Chicago. Are you getting it? This is called as
Yes.
logic.
Yes,
Huh?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
3/7 of chicken, 2/3 of cat, and 2/4 of goat. So highlighted in a color, CHI, CA, and GO altogether makes a Chicago. This is called as logic, how you derive, which is important in critical thinking. Next, another part, maybe what you call, next few minutes we'll give, because what is your break time?
Sir, 11:45, sir.
11:50.
11:15,
11:15
sir.
to
Sorry, break
12:45.
time.
Huh?
I can join 11:45, sir.
No. Now I'll introduce the topic. Huh?
Break time, sir. No.
Yeah, I'll introduce the topic. Okay, since we are the next topic, you are going to talk about the problem solving, which is connected to critical thinking. But I want to give you a problem much before what you want to go ahead. Okay, please note down this. It's called as 9-dot problem. You don't require what you call the outside border. Outside border is not required.
What are we supposed to do, sir?
Okay, outside border is, madam, just put the 9 dots. Have you noted?
Yes, sir.
You connect all the dots by 4 straight lines without lifting the what you call pen, and you should not overwrite. You can crisscross, but you should not overwrite. You cannot go back to the lines, and you can use only what you call 4 straight lines to connect all the dots. Is that is clear for you? 9 dots?
We can cross the line, sir.
No.
No crossing.
You can you can go what you call crisscross, but not over the line.
Okay.
4 straight lines, no bending.
One middle dot left. Sir.
No. Now you take time, madam. You have got a time. That's why. So we'll start later after the break. We'll start with the next concept, problem solving as a life skill. So we'll take a break now.
Yes, sir.
So 11:45,
sir.
11:45 we'll rejoin.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And you can ask questions at the end.